So here we are again on Mustard Movie Night. However,
Hello. Even though the
This
sun
is,
is currently shining.
the sun is shining, the river is looking surprisingly blue, which is nice to see. The world is healing.
Oh yeah, you can see water from your house.
Yeah, I
What were
can.
you burbling about Simon earlier?
Oh, because if anyone isn't aware and you're listening to this in the future, this was recorded in the lockdown times, not the before times.
I was tempted to make it extra lockdown by getting in my shouty dungeon that I've got.
I've seen your shouty dungeon. It's
Your
terrifying.
shouty dungeon, otherwise known as the cupboard under the stairs.
Yeah,
Cupboard
if
under
no
the
one's
stairs.
seen it, he's put a load of foam sort of on the walls of his cupboard under the stairs, like some kind of serial killer's rape dungeon.
It's acoustic foam. It's an
But it does
actual
work.
home studio.
It does look like something that a seedy landlord would have if they're like, I'm showing a young lady around today. Would you like to rent? And then the door slams behind them and they just
Well,
hear you like,
I'll have to be very careful. I'll have to be careful when I eventually move out of the place where I'm renting that there's no sort of lasting marks on the walls.
Oh, God,
Put everything up with acoustic foam and command strips, and it should be able to come down.
I've got recipes for mead currently taped to the walls of the kitchen, so
Oh, yeah.
I might
How
have
is
to
your
do the same
lockdown
thing.
mead? How's your mead going?
I'm glad you asked. The mead is going quite well. I sampled it the other day, and it's tastes quite nice. It's very sweet.
Because
So it's not done yet.
I'm really happy, actually, the amount of creativity I've seen from people locked in their houses with nothing to do.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
Even myself.
I ate pickled egg today. That was my contribution.
Was it that pickled egg?
Just the one, yeah. I mean, the rest of the jar's intact.
But
So
it wasn't
saving
that
those up.
egg, was it, Matt?
What Stefan's referencing is one time down the old Salutation Inn in Nottingham, which is a very brilliant pub. They'd had a jar of pickled eggs on the shelf behind the bar for what must have been years. So long there that the resident staff member who was serving me didn't know how long it had been there. So when I said, I'll have 2 pints of whatever beer and that pickled egg, and he looked around and went, no, I can't sell that legally. I don't think I can.
Oh, you should have given it a go. Like, just giving him a sniff at least.
I tried to bully him into selling it to me, but he wouldn't hand it over. He wouldn't hand over the goods.
Anyway, so today we're talking about the Big Lebowski, which is my favorite film of all time.
Oh yeah.
I was just going to stop you there, actually, because I've got one more point about lockdown.
Go on.
Stefan and myself have been collaborating on a small video project, haven't we?
We have, yes. It's a musical video project.
Raising support for the NHS, less.
It's for a group that stitches scrubs and bags for items that the NHS use while they're tackling the current coronavirus pandemic. I suppose I'll stick a link to that in the description of this video.
I'm quite proud of that, even though I spent a lot of time swearing and shouting and getting it wrong on my guitar.
Record your guitar part, yeah. No, but we had good fun doing it, and it's a very worthy cause. So I'd urge anyone who listens to this to consider supporting their local group that stitches scrubs.
And conversely, if you haven't met our member of the team, Stefan Harrison, he has been recently sighted driving up and down the country, putting up thousands of stay outdoors signs. What have you got to say here yourself?
Yeah, what are you playing at, Stefan?
It must have been my long lost brother, Vladimir. He gets around.
Is he the one that allegedly got killed by a boar?
Oh, no, that was my great uncle. One of them.
I bought a torch once that you could use to hit with a bow.
Oh, well, should we get the film then, shall we?
Anyway.
Sorry, as you were.
Yes, so
what are we talking about now?
We're talking about the Big Lebowski, which is the film that we have just watched. We seem to be doing everyone's favourite film at this point. So we did The Wild Geese last time, which was Simon's favourite film. We did The Big Lebowski this time, which is my favourite. So I don't know what we'll do next time, Matt, but you'll have to...
Oh!
Something good.
Do I get sort of dealer's choice in the next one?
Yeah.
No, don't let him do that.
I think that's...
Well, The Big Lebowski is a firm favourite of mine as well. I've loved it for years, and I was surprisingly late into coming into knowledge of it, I think.
I think I was as well, really, yeah.
I don't know that at the time it came out, it was ever that popular, but it has got a
No,
massive cult
It's
status.
it
yeah, it's
got
got a cult
mixed.
following.
Yeah, it kind of got mixed reviews at the time because people didn't really know what to make of it.
I mean, I still don't know what to make of it, and that's part of the reason I like it. It's so bizarre. A lot of it doesn't. A lot of it seemingly. A lot of the scenes are in there seemingly for no reason whatsoever. But it's
It's
just.
delightful.
Well, seeing as it's your favourite, Stefan, what would we say that film is about?
Push it back!
I'm glad you asked me that question because my take on this film is it's about a man, and I'm going to quote.
It's
I'm
about a
gonna
man.
I'm gonna paraphrase the beginning of the film slightly. It's about a man, and he is the man for his time and place.
Sometimes there is a man. And even if he's a lazy man,
Which the
the
dude
du-
most certainly was.
Yeah, if people
oh,
don't know, it's narrated by a cowboy man, even though it's not a western.
Sam
Mm.
Elliott, who has basically played himself in every role he's been in that I've ever seen, and
Just
it's
plays
so
cowboy.
good. He should never change.
Because he
But yeah,
plays, I think he plays a soldier in We Were Soldiers, which would make
Yeah, with Mel
sense. But
Gibson.
yeah, but he even gets a little cowboy hat and that.
yeah.
Any one of you some bitches calls me grandpa, I'll kill you.
Nah.
We don't want to fight with him though, that's for sure. But
Fighting
We should
grandpa.
actually do a
anyway,
history
anyway.
Malice Masters on that guy that he's based
We,
on.
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But as I was saying, the in my opinion, the Big Lebowski is about a man who is the man for his time and place, and this particular man, who will be called the Dude henceforth,
Mm.
played by Jeff Bridges.
He's
The
a hippie,
dude,
isn't he?
the dude has his rug peed on by one of two men who break into his house at the beginning, and the whole of the rest of the film is about how he deals with that and comes to terms with his rug being peed on.
Well, yeah, it starts very dramatically, doesn't it? With him being grabbed from behind and having his head rammed down a toilet.
Yeah, yeah.
The best way to describe it really is a lot of it's based on noir films from the 40s and 50s, you know, where they'd always start with the detective man and he gets in trouble. And then you have all these different factions. You know, normally he's in his office, like, and a dame walked in and she had legs like a tarantula. And
Yeah,
she had
like the detective
fingers.
who's always going, I really got to get a lock put on that door.
And
People
another
waltz
dame
in
walked
and out
in.
there. I couldn't, now that I think of it, I couldn't tell you how many characters actually just seem to break into.
Yeah, they just. But it's very similar to a lot of like detective films from like the 30s, because like he'd be whoever the detective is would be in his office like I ain't going near a dame anymore, and then normally you'd have like a big bloke who's a bit daft who's got a boss. He's like, I'm gonna hit him, boss, and then you knock him out.
Well, these two goons come to his house and manhandle him under mistaken identity.
That he's the Big Lebowski.
Yeah, so the dude's real name is Jeffrey Lebowski, and they're looking for a billionaire called Jeffrey Lebowski.
But
And
he's
they've got the wrong
bigger
guy.
than him.
Yeah, so they want to strong arm this guy for money because his wife's gone missing.
Because
or
his
something.
wife owes money all over town.
His wife?
Okay. My wife. The dude
who's-
goes to visit the guy who's actually the billionaire.
Who
once.
actually. The trouble with this film is that you're meant to sympathise with the dude who's the hippie guy, and now I'm an older man in my 30s. I've been agreeing with like every other character who, because basically everyone he meets just hits him and calls him a bum.
Because the dude is basically an unemployed guy, isn't he?
Who smokes a lot of weed.
Smokes a lot of
Yeah.
weed.
And he likes bowling.
Do you know, well, for a bit of early trivia, do you want to know the reason why he supposedly doesn't have a job?
I think it was in the script, wasn't it?
In the first sort of version, it was in the script, but they took it out.
He like inherited a load of money or something.
Because his relative, one of his relatives, invented the Rubik's Cube.
Oh, that
so that was his. That was how he got his income. Was he just got sort of royalties from the sales of Rubik's cubes?
He's got that big Rubik dollar.
That's quite funny.
I think maybe that's why he doesn't work, but he also doesn't seem to spend a hell of a lot of his own money because maybe it's not that much. I don't know what Rubik's cubes
I mean, you only see him. I think he buys beers in a bowling alley and he buys milk in a shop, and that's about it.
Not before sniffing it first, though.
Yeah, walking into the supermarket wearing a dressing gown and sandals and shorts. He always
Oh,
wears shorts.
This is relevant to my story about yesterday. Can I jump in here with it?
no.
Please go ahead.
So so we did in fact record, not record. We watched the film yesterday, and we're only doing our actual recording now, obviously.
That's ruined the magic.
But I decided, I decided that I had to have the classic Big Lebowski drink that the dude. It's the dude's drink of choice
Which is?
in the movie, which is a White Russian.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't
So-
have White Russians anymore.
Well,
Oh.
apparently they were never that popular until the film made them popular.
Yeah, Jeff Bridges just immortalized the drink forever.
I used to like them quite a bit, but once when I lived in America land, someone gave me one with gone off milk in it, and I threw up quite a lot, and I was quite unwell, and I haven't been able to drink them since.
Were you dressed as a priest at the time?
No, I think for some reason I didn't have a top on. I don't know why, because I'm quite the fat boy. So I was just
I've never
adapting to the
understood.
environment.
Well, I've never understood why people always bang on about, "Oh, I can't drink milky drinks." How could you drink that? Because I could drink pint after pint of milk.
Yeah, I could. I mean, I don't know what they're on about.
Yeah,
really,
but that's because you're like a large animal out of a children's story that just sort of breaks in and eats everything in the house. Like, oh, what are you doing, Bear? I want spaghetti. And that's
I think I'm going to end up a little bit like Keith Richards, but without the drugs.
it's just
Yeah.
eating a
I'll be
load of
one of those-
bolognese.
Well, maybe I'll be one of those craggy old guys who just gets wasted all the time, but seemingly is completely sober.
I'm all right with being that guy in the future. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, hell, I'm probably already quite close to that now.
But there's a certain lifestyle choice that the dude seems to have picked, which is just coast on through life, don't do any work if you don't have to,
Exactly,
and
so-
everybody else will pick up
Yeah.
after you.
Yeah, so in my experience yesterday, that's quite relevant, really, because I decided I needed a White Russian to go with the film. I didn't have any coffee liqueur of any sort in the flat, so I thought, okay, the vodka supplies are a bit low as well. I wasn't even sure if we had milk, so I went off to Asda, which isn't very far away, and the first aisle I came to with the one-way coronavirus system that you have to travel through the supermarket in a certain
Oh,
route following the
yeah.
arrows. So
Like the animal
first,
pens.
yeah, I think this was a bit of a touch of destiny, to be honest with you. 'Cause I found myself in the milk aisle first, so I ended up walking around the supermarket. I only needed 3 bottles for this, milk,
Right.
vodka, and some sort of coffee liqueur. So
Yeah.
I thought, oh, I won't need a basket. So the first thing I picked up was the milk, and then I was just walking around the supermarket holding a bottle of milk, much
Did you
like the
just-
dude.
Did
the
you just
film.
look like a lost Russian child who's been sent off by his alcoholic parents? Like, here's my milk and vodka.
Probably,
Well, I don't.
yeah.
I'd pity any child. No offense, Stefan, but I'd pity any small child that looks just like you because you
Yeah.
don't look like a youngster in my mind.
Oh man, imagine that. Imagine a
It's
small
like,
Slavic child.
Congratulations, you've given birth to a good God.
Giving birth to a 23-year-old man in a denim vest.
But anyway, I had my bottle of milk and I was walking around Asda, and then I found my way to the vodka. I thought I'll just get a little bottle will be fine. And then I thought, oh man, I don't even know if Asda's going to have Kahlua. Let's have a look around, because Kahlua is what he uses to make the White Russian.
Yeah.
And I looked around for a couple of minutes, and then I just saw it there by itself. It was the last bottle of Kahlua in the whole.
The last one.
the
Was it
whole aisle.
glowing in a
It
holy?
almost looked like it was a little bit
Whoa.
luminous. And I knew in that moment that I was destined to drink White Russians that day.
What if some like old woman had just pipped you to the post, putting her hand on the bottle before you get there? What would you have done?
Would you
Or
have
some
thought
old
of-
woman that's panic buying coffee liqueur for whatever
Would you have
reason.
thought of like those people in the supermarket in Australia?
Well, they're generally on the low shelves, aren't they, Kahlua? So she could bend down to reach it.
Well, yeah, that's true. I mean, I don't know what I would have done. I'm not prepared for that sort of confrontation. To be honest.
We should plan for future reference.
we should really.
Well,
But anyway, so I did consider at this point driving to Matt's house to make him a White Russian.
What, just
Oh.
pass it through the window?
From a distance
Through
of 2 meters,
letterbox.
of course. I would have been like, Matt, hand me a glass.
You could have
Yeah.
taken the siphon tube from your mead making and
Oh,
just
I
run
could've
it through the letterbox.
And then you could have
The
just
funnel.
drank it from the tube.
That's a service you could offer on a
Yeah.
regular basis.
It's probably quite a niche service, but I mean, I'm sure I'd get some business. But yeah,
That's
anyway,
how
that's
business is
my
done.
story about my Lebowski experience.
Did you get any food on the shop?
No, I didn't.
Why?
I already had food. I wasn't desperate.
You're fortunate enough to live next to a weird little shop
Oh yeah.
in the grounds of your
Sure.
blocks of flats, aren't you?
Yeah, I am.
That's
I
a
mean,
strange shop.
we'll save the stories about that place for another episode, I think.
The
But
local shop for local people.
yeah, we've had my Lebowski experience, so let's talk a bit more about the film, shall we?
Well,
I
yeah,
did.
so sorry, carry on.
No, you're ruining it. You go.
Well, so Jeffrey Lebowski, aka the Dude, gets strong-armed for cash that he doesn't have because the guys have turned up to the wrong Lebowski's house, isn't it? And so, with his friends there at bowling, they point out that the other Jeffrey Lebowski is the one who he should go and see to get compensation for his rug that got peed on.
And then you meet Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Oh, Philip Seymour Hoffman is awesome in that film.
He plays a weird part.
He
He's
plays
like
Brant, the manservant sort of butler guy, doesn't he?
he's like his little assistant. I
Not
don't.
that little.
No,
Strangely devoted to him as well, actually.
yeah, it's whatever emotion the Big Lebowski's having. Like Philip Seymour Hoffman sort of copies. Like the Big Lebowski sort of crying, so Philip Seymour Hoffman's like, "We've had dreadful news."
Well, the meeting with the Big Lebowski doesn't go well, does it?
Because he's a fucking bum. He's a bum. Are you employed, sir?
My advice to you is to do what your parents did. Get a job, sir.
To be fair, I like saying that a lot. It's one of my favourite things to say to students.
I love that meeting though because he's obviously high as he walks in there, and as we've heard, I can't remember if it was you that told me this, Matt, or if I read it somewhere. But Jeff Bridges he'd rub his eyes before a scene quite heavily so that they'd go a bit red.
Yeah, that's right.
As if he'd smoked a joint, and he'd ask the director before each scene, "Do you reckon the dude burned one on the way over?"
That's right. Yeah.
If so, that's what he would do to further act up his stoner impression.
But it's definitely one of Jeff Bridges' best roles, but it's so different. When I was watching Iron Man, and he's this sort of corrupt business owner.
Yeah, he shaves his head in that one, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's so weird.
This is why I've often thought the day I shave my head will be like Gritty Reboot Day.
I don't think I'm far from that, to be honest with you.
I don't think I am either, really.
Oh, shall we do a triple Gritty reboot?
One day we should do a prank where we record a video where there's a load of eggs in egg cups and we've got our heads on the table. And then we all just put our heads up at the same time and people realise we're not eggs. Maybe.
So the dude cons the butler into giving him a rug, just saying, "Yeah, the old man told me to pick any rug in the house," which is a lie. Goes off, meets the guy's horny wife on the way out, doesn't he?
Yeah, Tara Reid sort of plays herself in this.
Yeah, well,
she's had a lot of problems, hasn't she?
Not necessarily her fault. I don't know. I don't know enough about the situation to say anything.
She's like an actress, and she was sort of, you know, people who do what most people in Britain do, but in America it's shocking, like getting battered every weekend. So she sort of did that for a while, so she was always in their papers.
Well, she, the character she plays is supposedly kidnapped after that, isn't she?
Yes.
Fucking lying it.
So,
I love the way she's supposedly kidnapped, and the dude gets roped into kind of first of all being the courier who makes the handoff of the ransom money, but somehow he ends up being this kind of private investigator in all but name, really, which is completely the wrong man for the job, if you ask me.
Everybody assumes that the dude knows more than he does, doesn't they?
Yeah, and he really uses that to his advantage as well.
Well, essentially what Matt said earlier, that like his sort of house is basically like his private detective's office. In films from the 40s, every 5 minutes the main character is getting knocked out by someone.
Well, how many people break in there? There's the two goons at the start.
I think he gets knocked out 3 times.
Also Lebowski's daughter.
Yeah, he meets her, the feminist artist.
Don't like sex,
And
Lebowski.
so there's her and there's the two guys with her, one of whom punches him in the face and knocks him out for that dream sequence.
And then Jackie Treehorn, he breaks in at some point, or his goons do at least.
He's the
they're
porn
the
man,
same
isn't he?
goons. They're the same goons from the start.
I wish I had some goons.
Jackie Treehorn. Tell us about Jackie Treehorn.
Well, he's basically Hugh Hefner, isn't he? Like he's sort of like a porn man.
I think
Hugh
he's supposed to
Hefner.
be that.
I suppose it counts as porn, doesn't it?
Oh, Playboy, yeah.
It was
I
the
mean-
porn of its day.
It won't do anything for the modern man because there's too much out there. But
You're too desensitized to that sort of. What's this? Bunny tails and corsets? I need much more dicey stuff than that, my good friend.
I need medical grade equipment, and I want to see inside a large intestine. Otherwise, nothing will work.
I need to burn some sage and drip cow guts on my girl.
Jesus Christ.
Nothing else
all right.
touches me.
I need
Well,
to dress up
Like
as a
dancing the Macarena.
I think they break into his flat about 5 times, probably. And it's just seen as the done thing by the end of it. Like when Maud Lebowski's in there for the second time, he just doesn't even question it. He just goes, "Oh, that's my robe." And that's it.
If you were going to offer him a job, would you send some goons around to knock him out? Just be like, I could do with someone to fix my window.
Well,
he'll
she
do
was
it.
there when
Send
he
the
got knocked out.
bars.
She was there at the time when he got knocked out by her goon.
Well, it's that weird thing from films where, like, especially like films in the 30s and 40s, I think they didn't really know about concussion then. People would just get knocked out, like, he'll be okay in a minute. Think, oh no, fucking work.
Yeah, it's actually really. It's like on a tangent. You see those YouTube videos of the top 20 most ridiculous martial arts, and there's those guys who claim they can summon sort of cosmic energy to force people back, and then their disciples will end up convulsing on the floor.
Oh yeah, that's upsetting.
It was a few years ago when I did it, but I've done enough first aid training to know that if someone's convulsing on the floor, you should call them an ambulance.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Unless they are very well practiced at having seizures and just want to go home. But
I used to pretend to have seizures for a laugh, but I found people don't like that, so I don't do it anymore. It's a good way to get out of trouble. If someone's about to hit you and you pretend to have a seizure, you win about 5 seconds of getaway time.
So we were talking about how many times he has his house broken into.
I think it's 3.
I think it's 5.
Oh my god!
Twice it's by the same group of people though, because the goons end up in there twice. Oh no, actually no, because the Germans break in as well at one point, don't they? And threaten to
Yeah,
the Germans who are supposedly the kidnappers.
I said we will cut off your Johnson.
Cut off your Johnson, and they're like weird, sort of generic foreigners.
well, that's
Yeah.
There's an actor called Peter Stormare, and he made a whole career in Hollywood by claiming to be able to do any accent, and he's from Sweden. And it's one of
Is he? I thought he was Russian.
No, well, that's it. He plays Russians a lot, and I saw an interview with him that said, "You do loads of accents." Like, no, I don't. And he'll just do his own voice or slightly different. They'll be like, "Can you play a Bulgarian general?" He'll be like, "Oh, I'm a Bulgarian general." I'm like, "Yeah, you're in. Go."
He's in John Wick as well. But
yeah, he plays another Russian person. Yeah,
he's in all sorts. Every time they need a foreign, sinister-looking guy, they either get him or the guy who was in Snatch playing Boris the Bullet Dodger. In fact, I'm pretty sure there are films where they've played either relatives of each other's or they've, kind of been versions of the same character.
Well, it's any film where they're like, we need a sort of creepy-looking Russian man to bother Steven Seagal.
That could be me. I could do that.
To be fair, if you grew a moustache, you could be like Steven Seagal's cousin who's gone rogue and has stolen a Russian submarine with his daughter in it.
I have a moustache. He's just surrounded by beard.
Yeah, I mean, Steven Seagal, like, budgets for his films are like £5 now, so he could probably be in one. Stefan, what happened in the film? What bits did you like?
We've spoken about the fact that he gets roped into delivering the ransom for this woman who's supposedly been kidnapped.
Her life's in his hands.
Yeah, his life is her life's in his hands, and that gets repeated.
Her life is in your hands.
Her life's in your hands, dude. Her life's in your hands. And then of course the dude recruits his good friend. Walter.
Walter's my favourite character.
To drive him to the handoff, and Walter is just. He's
amazing.
Such an amazing character. He is. He's your your typical Vietnam War veteran that's
Walter.
probably every now and then he just has one of those flashback moments where you can see he slips into that Vietnam mindset, and that leads to him sort of pointing guns at people over a game of bowling and
I
score
have
disagreements.
friends who died face down in the mud.
I don't know.
Vietnam comes into everything.
There's a little bit of trivia I know. There's a theory about his character that he never actually served.
I expected that. It was actually surprising that it sounds like he was actually in Vietnam because he bangs on about Vietnam so much. I thought it was going to turn out that he'd
So
just
what's
driven
the
a truck or
theory that he never
something.
served then? Is there any reasoning for it?
There's all sorts of fan theories. There's a fan theory that he never actually served, so he's doing that whole stolen valor things. That's why he bangs on about Vietnam so much, because it's like methinks the lady doth protest too much. It's
That
like,
would make
we
sense
didn't do this
though.
in Nam.
Because have you ever
Yeah.
seen sort of videos of people who do that? It'll be like a guy, like a really fat guy with like loads of medals. He'll be like, I got 12 medals of honor.
My standard issue Uzi that I keep in a brown bag.
Oh, that scene. Oh man, I mean, only what's his name, Walter Sobchak in this story could come up with a plan. What does the dude call his plan? He says it's
a
Swiss
clockwork.
fucking watch.
it's
Swiss
it's
watch.
brilliant for its simplicity or something like that.
It's a Swiss fucking watch.
Yeah, that was
His
it. It's a
isn't his
Swiss
plan
fucking
just to beat him up and take the money?
He said he'll
his
grab
plan
one
was,
of them and beat it
okay,
out
dude.
of him.
Okay,
what
dude.
is
My
very
plan is
interesting-
we'll make the handoff, and then I'm gonna grab one of them and beat it out of him.
But what's great about the film is so much of the dialogue cyclical. At the end of the film, that does come true. I mean, this is spoilers, so watch the film. Don't listen to this.
Oh yeah,
It is a common theme throughout the film. Is there's sort of premonitions of things happening, isn't there?
But
Things,
he's right.
or at least people sort of say things that the dude picks up on, and then he says them to other characters, and it has
it's
something
like
of an effect.
he gets the main points used in him with a discussion with one of the other characters, and then the next time he's in a spot of bother, he'll just say something that they said to him, and then that somehow helps him out in that situation, which is, I don't know if that would ever work for anyone really, but it is funny.
It's a bit like a film that we need to watch at some point called Bad Boy Bobby, which is amazing.
Oh yeah, that is
I
a
don't know what this
horrendous
is.
film. You've never seen anything quite like it. It's a mental.
It's Australian. It's like this guy who spends about 30 years of his life just living with his mum, and his mum's made him think there's no one else left in the world. It's just them, and then he escapes.
It's like if Forrest Gump was an abused crackhead or something.
So like he doesn't really learn how to speak English. He just repeats things that people say to him. So it's like that. Like, do you remember when I got
idiot genius sort of thing?
I don't like smart cunts.
Well, let's not give too much of it away. But yeah, that's definitely on the list.
Sounds like my kind of film. I'm looking for.
It's a horrible, bloody film for about half of it, and then it turns hilarious afterwards.
Tiny tits. It's so good.
But yeah, on the we were talking about Walter Sobchak.
No.
Yes, we were. There's another great character called Donnie.
Donnie's not a great character.
Donnie.
I'm quite fond of him, but
he's a great character, I said.
Shut the fuck up, Donnie.
Basically, Steve Buscemi, when they did a panel about this and he was asked about the role, his experience playing the role, he said, first of all, when he read the script, he didn't want to play this guy because he just spent the whole time being told to shut the fuck up.
It's bizarre, though, because like, Steve Buscemi at this point always played scumbags. And in this, he's a sweet boy.
Yeah.
I always thought that he was the voice of Sid the Sloth in Ice Age.
Did you?
Because he kind of looks like him, I guess.
Oh, bless him.
But anyway, so I think Walter is the one who he gets roped into the dude's adventures and actually follows through with it. Donnie, he does get roped into one of their little ventures out to residence.
But we'll go into
that in a minute.
Oh right. Okay.
Yeah.
Shall I go into that now? Or?
For the rest of it, Donnie is just there at the bowling alley, and he gets involved in these conversations about the goings on in the dude's life. Like he'll sort of walk into the conversation and say, they They peed on what? And he's like, they peed on my rug. And then he starts telling Walter, they peed on the dude's rug, man. So it's
And
just,
then Walter goes,
Fuck
Donnie,
off, Donnie.
yeah,
you're out of your element, Donnie.
And
Like a child has wandered into the
Just gets-
cinema.
constantly belittled by Walter, who's essentially telling him that his input is completely irrelevant.
Because he missed the start of the dude's story.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
Walter's one of those guys who's so angrily sure of himself and what he's saying that you believe him,
Yeah,
but it's all a load of nonsense.
yeah, exactly.
He's a bad man.
A bad man.
I don't think he's a bad man. I think he's a
He's-
good man.
He's very selfish. He fucks up the whole thing because they go to give money to the hostage takers, and he just sort of rolls out the car with an Uzi in a bag and
Yeah,
drops it.
yeah. When he finds out that he can't go and make a physical handoff, he says, "Take the wheel, dude." Like rolls out the car, drops his Uzi, which spins around and sprays bullets everywhere, taking out the car in the process, one of the tires and one of the rear lights. I mean, it's a miracle no one was shot in that situation, isn't it?
Yeah. No, it's gone. I can't remember.
Oh, fair enough. But yeah. So anyway, we've discussed the
I
doings of
remembered.
Walter there.
What the word I would use to describe Walter is misguided.
Can I use a bit of bloody trivia on him?
Yeah.
He's based on two people in real life.
Who are they?
And one of them was a director and screenwriter, and he wrote Dirty Harry. But he's quite famous in Hollywood because he's quite right wing and militaristic, and he apparently just goes around arguing with everyone because it's quite a left wing place. So there's stuff like he'll just start on people over nothing. Like when one of them's bowling and they go slightly over the line, he's just like
And the guy,
It's the whole
the
world
guy
gone
he's
crazy.
yelling at, the guy he's yelling at is a pacifist. And then they're in the car park after the whole incident. The dude's saying he's got serious emotional problems, and Walter goes, "What? You mean beyond pacifism?"
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think
Oh,
I'm
that was
slowly
good.
turning into Walter.
I think
might
you're
get-
already most of the way there, Simon.
Yeah, I might get a little vest.
But yeah, so we then move on in the story to the so they've just bodged up the handoff of
handoff.
money completely. So then the dude seems to kind of fall into a bit of a depressed state, and it seems like the only thing he can bring himself to think about is the fact that they're going to kill that poor woman.
They're going to kill that poor woman.
That
Yeah.
poor
And Walter
sweet girl.
seems to just brush this off and say, like, no, dude, no, she kidnapped herself. You said it yourself. She kidnapped herself.
Is he
Even
meant
at
to
the
be?
stage where, because they try and nick the money, don't they? Then they leave the supposed money in a briefcase in his car, which gets stolen.
Yes, and that leads into the next main
Yeah.
phase of the
Do you
story.
think is Walter meant to be? It's like, I know because Lebowski is really upset, and then he's just like, "Let's go bowling."
He's like, hey,
Like,
fuck
none of
you,
it goes
let's
in.
go bowling.
There's a whole underlying detail of how he's obsessed with his ex-wife still.
Oh, and he's still
converted
Jewish.
He converted to Judaism for her. He keeps her dog, which
fair, it's a
they
good
call
dog.
a Pomeranian, but it's actually a Yorkshire Terrier.
Yeah, that's a weird theme in the film as well, that they name animals incorrectly. Like, there's a ferret later. He calls it a marmot.
Oh, what? Just to put in for a second, one of my favourite quotes about Walter when he's pressed on why he still thinks he's Jewish. He says, 3,000 years of beautiful tradition from Moses to Sandy Koufax. You goddamn right, I'm living in the fucking past.
So it's not like when I get divorced, I hand in my library card. I stop being Jewish.
Yeah.
It's so odd.
But yeah, so the dude's car gets stolen. In this car has the briefcase with the money that the millionaire Lebowski gives to him.
The Big Lebowski.
The Big Lebowski.
He's an actual beast, the actor who played him. If you look at photos of him next to other people, he's just a bear of a man.
Fair enough.
I don't know if I've seen him in anything else.
But
He was...
so yeah, like the briefcase in his car, the car gets stolen. At which point, the dude is he's waiting for his car to be found by the police. They find it in the end, along with some kids' homework in the car. A kid called Larry Sellers. Now, this becomes the next main point that the dude investigates in the case of the kidnapped woman and
That
his
poor
stolen
woman.
car. So Walter somehow, it doesn't explain how, he tracks down where this kid lives, and he lives apparently near the In-N-Out Burger, which again
Everything
gets
is by the In-N-Out
repeated about
Burger.
20 times, and he's like, oh, he lives on this road near the In-N-Out Burger.
They got those good burgers there, haven't they, Well?
And Donnie's like, hey, those are good burgers, Walter.
Shut the fuck up, Donnie.
Yeah, to which he gets told to shut
while
up.
they're in the theatre watching his landlord's weird play where he's
Yeah,
dressed in sort of a bodysuit with ivy leaves on it. And
that is a good point, because have you noticed that I'm not entirely sure why this happens. This goes back to what I was saying about how a lot of the scenes in this film just don't seem to make any sense at all, really. They seem to have a load of random arty moments in the film where, like, you've got Lebowski's daughter coming along on that I don't know what you call it.
Maud
That kind of like
On a pulley
zip line
system.
thing. That pulley system where she's doing some kind of feminist artwork.
yeah, she's doing chaotic painting. Yeah,
On
Yeah.
on another note, one of my favourite people, Brian Blessed, who's a bit inappropriate in this day and age, in interviews he keeps bringing up pulley systems. Like, what do you like about the bedroom? Like, I'd like to have a woman on a pulley system, and he won't stop going on about it.
Does he?
sounds like something in the Kama Sutra.
I need a pulley
No,
system. Oh, that's derailed it.
That's some
but yeah,
serious
no, it's
engineering
like-
right there.
But yeah, there's random bizarre kind of abstract art moments in this film. I don't know if abstract is the right word, but you have like this feminist artist on a pulley system that comes and splashes paint all over the place, and that's art apparently.
Weirdly,
And,
you've got a
and his landlord.
naked woman. You got a naked woman on a bouncy parachute thing.
Oh yeah, there's that as
trampoline.
well. So there's the
Yeah.
artist on the pulley system. There's the I'm just going to see how many times I can say pulley system. And you've
She was
got
a right old pulley system. That
Hey,
there's
What
her,
are
and
you-
there's his landlord, which is he does some kind of one man
oh,
like
bless him.
interpretive dance.
It's
Yeah.
nice he went to see it, though, isn't it?
Yeah, and
Went to support.
Donnie's really enjoying it as well when he goes to see it.
but yeah, anyway, so Walter finds out where this kid Larry Sellers lives, and he makes a big thing of how this kid is the son of the man who wrote
Branded.
the
What
bulk
is
of the series,
Branded?
Branded.
I think it's a bit like Rawhide or something. I don't know. Or Matlock.
I've not seen it.
Some
but,
some program that old people like. I don't know.
So when they finally get up to this house and they go in and speak to the kid, they they find his dad in an iron lung in the living room.
Can he? What do they say? Can they talk to him? Then
They say, does he
no.
still write? And she says, oh no, he has health problems.
No shit, Sherlock. He's in an iron fucking lung.
Can I crack open some trivia on this?
Yeah, go
I've cracked open some sherry.
Very good. This incident is based on a true story.
really?
What?
Yeah, out of the two people that Walt's based on, not John Milius, but another person they knew who was like a private investigator. The same thing happened. Like their car got stolen. He found out, that it had a child's homework in it, and apparently he went out and rented a suit and then went around the child's house. And the only real difference is that apparently the dad was on oxygen, but not in an iron lung. But it's fucking mental that a lot of these people are based on real life.
It's not too long after that the dude ends up going around Jackie Treehorn's big mansion, is it? And then he gets sort of spiked with roofies or something by
Yeah,
Jackie
they slap him on
Treehorn.
Mickey.
Yeah, because Jackie Treehorn wants his money, and so the dude is meant to act as a carrier for him as well, but Jackie Treehorn spikes his drink, and then he ends up drugged and running down the highway, and ends up talking to the chief of police of Malibu, who beats him up.
Yeah, there's another character I sympathise with because he's like, I have rights, and the policeman just hits him with a mug. And he's
Well,
like,
my point is that's based on a true story as well. One behind the film, I can't remember who it was. He basically got mistreated by some member of the police saying, "Stay out of my beach community."
There's so many weird phrases in it. Like, it gets called a gold bricker. I don't know what that is.
Oh, I forgot to look it up. If anybody knows what a gold bricker
What is a
is,
gold
please
bricker?
leave us a message on the YouTube
Please
chat.
write in.
Is it anti-Semitic, and can we start using it?
I'd love to be able to spit out like I don't know if it's a slur or not to say Yiddish, but those sort of Hebrew terms that are brilliant onomatopoeic
Let's just-
words.
Well, what you really need is like one of my dad's many obsessions is elderly Jewish men from New York, because he really likes films with those characters, and he really wants to have that voice, but he's been told repeatedly not to talk in that voice.
I'm
He likes to be like,
I'm kind of disappointed that Walter doesn't just take every opportunity to shout Yiddish words.
yeah, I want to learn Yiddish.
Fuck.
But anyway, let's have a quick sort of 10-second gibberish moment where we all we quote that scene where they're interrogating Larry.
Okay.
Killing your father, Larry.
You see, you're gonna cut your dick off,
Larry.
You're killing your
It's your
father.
homework, Larry.
Have you ever
All right,
heard of
all right, this is
Vietnam?
pointless.
We're going to cut off your
Where's
Johnson,
homework,
Larry.
We know it's his fucking homework.
Why don't you look
What the
outside of
fuck
that
are you
window,
doing,
Larry?
little
Do you
brat?
see what happens, Larry? You see what happens when you fuck a stranger in the ass? Smash.
Little asshole
Oh.
stonewalling me. Oh, Simon, do you know the trivia about that scene?
What with the overdubbing?
Yeah.
Yeah, when they showed this on TV in America, there's a line where Walt goes outside and smashes up a car, and the line is, "This is what happens when you fuck a stranger in the ass," and they changed it to, "This is what happens when you find a stranger in the Alps."
Yeah. So he's gone down sort of in cult history as one of the greatest dubbing examples ever.
Yeah, they do that. I don't know why they do that in America. It's similar to, I remember back when I used to live there, they showed Resident Evil 2, and there's a character who's one of the most stereotypical men in the world. He's like a pimp character.
Oh, is that Mike Epps?
Yeah, that's it. Like he
I
says,
see you, motherfucker.
yeah, that's it.
That's not suspect. That's me trying to impersonate Mike Epps, because Mike Epps is hilarious. But also, there's a bit where Mike Epps, I love Mike Epps, but he's a bit of he plays cavalier with the script sometimes. And so there was there were a bunch of extras just lying on the ground pretending to be corpses, and he just starts booting the shit out of one of them. And so Mila Jovovich has to grab hold of him and pull him away.
Oh, because there's a line in the film which is, "That motherfucker over there has a motherfucking rocket launcher," and they change it to motivator. So it's like, "That motivator's got a motivated rocket launcher. Motivator flicker."
Can you imagine if it was Mr. Motivator?
Oh, is he still?
He was in Resident Evil 2. Yeah, Mr. Motivator's still going. He's still.
I resented him as a child because he pointed at the screen when my mum was watching and said, "Don't copy what you see on Power Rangers." And then my mum said, "You can't go around trying to high kick people anymore." Mr. Motivator said so. So you fucking, this is your doing, Motivator. Can.
He was of that era, wasn't he? The Power Rangers era. But Mr. Motivator, he was at Nottingham Trent University not so long ago, I think.
Was he?
I think. Certainly in Nottingham.
Oh, those were the days.
Can you imagine if you thought you'd booked Mr. Motivator for a public appearance and you accidentally booked Mr. Rotivator?
Who's Mr. Rotivator?
Some guy I just made up who rotivates.
What is Rotivator?
Jesus Christ.
A rotivator is like an earth-moving piece of equipment that's like a mini circular wheel plow.
To be fair, if you had work to be done on your grounds, it'd be quite handy.
You can rent them for doing up allotments.
Can we get one?
What are we talking about?
Well, earlier, we were talking about the film The Big Lebowski.
Yeah, right. So
John Goodman intimidates a child.
So he's just gone and interrogated the child that left his homework in his car because it's implied that he stole it and did some joyriding. Walter goes out and in his wisdom smashes the car that he assumes the kid has bought with the money he found in the briefcase. But that turns out to be another guy's car who then smashes it.
It's such a stupid thing to do, though, because he's arguing with a child and says, "Oh, is that your car that you've bought?"
Have you ever heard of Vietnam?
To be fair, in the US, I think you can start driving at 15, can't you?
That's quite
in some states anyway. It's certainly younger than it is here.
Well, they pull up outside the house and they see that brand new Corvette and they think it belongs to the kid because the kid's got the money that was in the back of the car when they failed to do the handoff.
But as Walter is smashing it up with a crowbar and shouting about being fucked in the ass,
It's just a gigantic Hispanic guy who runs out
big
there.
Hispanic guy runs out and starts. He's like, "Hey, I just bought the car last week. I'll kill your car." At which point he smashes up
And
the dude's
Donnie's
car
still
even more.
inside. Donnie's still inside
Oh,
the
poor
car when
Donnie.
it's getting smashed up.
Poor
What I
sweet
love about
Donnie.
that whole scene, though, is how after it's over, then it just cuts to them driving home with no windscreen, and the dude looking just like he's had enough, and Walter and Donnie both eating burgers.
I think my favourite bit after that is when Walt phones him up and you can't hear Walt, and he's saying, "No, Walt, I don't think he was about to crack."
He's like, "No, Walter, I don't think he was about to crack." Well, you may
Well,
have got that impression.
that's right. When he's trying to nail a plank onto his own floor to wedge a chair against the door so nobody can come in. And then
Yeah,
the two goons from the start of the movie open the door outwards because it
and
swings
the
outwards.
chair just falls down.
Weirdly, that's got to be like a highlight.
But yeah, I mean, from there, where do we go in the film then?
They drag him
Ross
off
Jack.
to see Jackie Treehorn. He
Yes,
gets
that's right.
roofied. He
This
gets
is a
beaten up by
reference.
the chief of police of Malibu, doesn't he?
That
Yeah.
is a bloody reference to noir films, because for some reason, like private detective films, there'd always be a bit where it was normally the dame who did it. He'd be drinking, and then the screen goes all blurry, and he'd be like, you slipped me a Mickey, see? And then he'd pass out. It's very much in that tradition.
It happens
back
in Casino Royale in James Bond.
Which one? Because there's been a lot of Casino
Where
Royales.
he gets poisoned in the first Daniel Craig.
Oh
movie,
yeah,
he's
doesn't he have to
poisoned.
electrocute
Then
himself?
he's trying to do the call it the heart stopper starter defibrillator, and then he realizes it's not plugged in and he passes out. That was a great moment. That's not in this film.
No.
But yeah, so Jackie Treehorn roofies the dude. The dude gets beaten up by the chief of police of Malibu
With a mug.
and then gets sent home. I think that's when he finds out Maud's in his house.
Love me, Bukowski.
Bukowski?
Oh, no,
Jablonski?
Jablonski.
Jeffrey.
Simon,
No,
who is
Jeffrey.
Steve Jablonski, by the way?
Oh, dear,
Tell us more about him.
That's a whole long tangent that I don't know if we want to go down, but we will.
Anyway, so they. For goodness sake, let's not bring that.
Can you summarize it in under 30 words?
Because we're cool. We went to a LARP once, which I won't name because we don't want to get in trouble. And I was asked to create a person, and I created a car salesman from New York called Steve Jablonski. I was told shortly after, don't ever do that again. And I was just a goblin with it.
In a fantasy setting, you're a used car salesman.
You're a car dealership on the New Jersey Turnpike.
Were you a renegade who respected no rules?
I think, to be honest, most of the time I just sort of was like, "Oh, I'm a goblin," and that was it, really.
Oh, I'm a goblin.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm a goblin. I'm gonna get you.
But anyway,
watch out. Sorry.
So what were we up to? I've forgotten now.
He gets back. Maud says, "Love me, Jablonski."
Oh yeah, Jeffrey, love me. No, not Jablonski.
Oh, this is
The big Jablonski, Simon Brown
Oh
story.
no, we're asking the big questions here. If Julianne Moore turned up in your house with her angry haircut and took your dressing gown off herself and said, "Love me," would you?
Yeah, even now,
I think I would, but I don't know if I'd trust her because
that was back in the 90s. My point being, she's aged rather well.
I know, but she got beaten up early.
Now, if she turned up at my house.
First time I saw
but
it,
she gives him the number for
Probably
a good
not for us
doctor
to
who's
say.
a good man and thorough.
but
It's
a
a
good
nice
man and
hypothetical
thorough.
situation, but it's not something for us to say, I guess, on whether she's.
she's what? Whether she's what?
I don't know if we can really say that on the podcast, can we?
Let's just continue.
Would you rather? Ooh,
Well, personally, I wouldn't trust her. 'cause-
Julianne Moore in a bathrobe or that bird on a bouncy trampoline thing.
Oh no! For me, like first time I saw it, I thought she was going to knock him out. And I was really surprised that she actually went to bed with him because every 5 minutes someone breaks into his house and knocks him out. So I thought, she's going to slip him a Mickey too. No, they just do a sex.
The doors open when she takes the robe off. The front door's just wide open, isn't
She
it?
just casually walks
I
downstairs.
think the more important question is, if you went round the dude's house, would you put his dressing gown on? Because I fucking wouldn't. I bet it's mucky.
Does he even have stairs? I don't know if it's a bungalow.
I think it's a bungalow, but that house is filthy. I would not get in that bed.
I like bungalows.
Yes, we used to live in a bungalow that was falling
The
apart.
fungalow.
The fungalow.
What a time we had! I remember my dad
Good old-
walked in once and he just said that this entire house is held together with mold, isn't it?
Oh, is that
yes,
why
it
you
is.
called it the fungalow? I was
Well, I
wondering if
thought-
it meant if it was because it was fun or because there was fungus everywhere.
I
think
thought
it's
it
both.
because it was fun, but also, well, he didn't have fungus; it had mold. I don't think they're the same thing.
Yeah, mold isn't that bad. You can get
What
rid
a
of
time we had. Do you remember the many times when I thought I'd caught Lyme disease off that house? What a time we had.
Didn't you think because you'd been hit with a spear in your pectoral or something that you had some kind of calcified lump?
Yeah, I thought it'd give me tit cancer, and I had to go to the doctor.
That's not how cancer works. I don't think.
well, I was a bit concerned.
I'm not a
But,
doctor, and I'm not a good man and thorough.
So after he's been with he spent the night with Maud, she reveals that she was just after his seed, as it were, because she
It's
wants
a
to have a
bit
child.
naughty, really.
She wants to conceive, yeah.
Yeah, like she doesn't ask him beforehand. She just sort of takes that baby milk.
I don't
then
know
she's like-
about the ethics behind that.
Well, but you should probably tell someone if you're gonna have their kid, and instead she's just like, "I wanted your sperm."
Yeah, but should you not bear that? Should you not bear that in mind anyway? It's not.
Yeah, he should have
like-
wrapped it up. But he's from that generation. The hippies didn't
the
care.
90s.
The old Johnnies.
Well, I don't know, because it was in the 90s that there was a big sort of AIDS awareness with.
Yeah, if you were
That'd
Julianne
be
Moore,
rough.
would you have unprotected sex with that man? Because he looks like he smells
What,
of
the
chicken.
90s?
Yeah,
No.
if I was Julianne Moore, I'd be like, oh, put it in a turkey base and I'll send it to the lab first.
Oh, yeah.
Freeze it and sterilise it for me.
Swimmers on ice.
No, I need to do that in case I have an accident. I've been hitting the
Well-
bollock too many times.
Just to wrap this up. She says the Big Lebowski, the guy in the wheelchair, has no money of his own. It's all the foundations, and then
So he's a
he
fraud, is
calls Walter, doesn't he? Walter's annoyed to have to give him a lift to the mansion.
Oh, because it's
Shabbos, the day of rest.
wish I had a day of rest.
Well, they go round there. The wife is back. She was never actually kidnapped.
So
And then
somehow
they
Walter was
yell at-
right all along.
Yeah, he's right about everything.
Well,
Not
I've said it before.
Not quite everything, but
I've said it before that even a stopped clock is right twice a day.
It's
Exactly.
why I love Walt, because at the start of the film, I just think he's incompetent and ridiculous, but everything he says comes true.
yeah.
I think my housemate's having a conversation upstairs.
Hello?
That's all right. We can't hear it. It's
Hello.
fine.
Hello? I can't hear me.
Hello, here he comes.
But yeah,
Hello.
so
You're live on... What is it?
It's just Tom going into the kitchen. Don't worry, I've stirred my sauce
So-
recently.
Oh, this is exciting, isn't it? It's,
Yeah,
it's
where
like
were we up
when that man was on the news and a baby was in the room, and it was quite good.
yeah, but yeah, Big Lebowski, great film. It turns out that the woman had in fact kidnapped herself, and she'd enlisted her German buddies to kind of pose as these ransom, as it were.
And then there's a horrible, horrible fight scene.
And
Oh,
then there's a brilliant fight scene where the Germans
Oh.
confront Lebowski, Donnie, and Walter,
They're going to fucks you up. But
and you
I keep
finally
calling
get
you
to
Jablonski.
see.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
there's
finally get to
three-
see Walter unleash his Vietnam skills.
well, there's
And what-
3 Germans dressed head to toe in leather and bike helmets, and only one of them has a weapon, and the
Actually, no,
other 2
two of them
can't
do.
fight.
I watched this scene separately, and one of the top comments was said that you can tell Walt's actually capable because he takes out the guy with the gun first, and then he goes for the guy with the sword.
Really?
Yeah, he throws the
Yeah,
bowling.
one of them, who's played by Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers, has got a gun, and then he chucks
Flea,
a bowling
yeah.
ball into his rib cage.
I didn't realise they had a gun.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
horrendous though. That he's like crawling around like.
And during that, well, there's a slight spoiler alert. During that, Donnie.
Oh, this
actually
whole thing's a
has
spoiler.
What?
Ah, never mind. Continue.
Well, Donnie
Um,
has a bit of an upset.
No,
yeah.
that's very sad. I don't know why that was necessary for him to die.
And then there's a very good funeral scene at the end of the film.
Oh God.
Oh.
Um,
Well, I was going to
if you like the
mention.
idea of having your ashes scattered to the bosom of the Pacific Ocean from a coffee tin.
In accordance with what we assume your wishes would well have been.
Oh, I'd love that. I love that line. You know, I would love it if at my the disposal of my remains, when that eventually comes around, if it was just you guys there going like, well, in accordance with what he probably would have wanted us to do, because it's
Dump
fit
him
for
in the
me.
North Sea.
And they
Yeah.
go to pick his ashes up from the crematorium, and the urns are really expensive, like
Just because we're
$2,000
bereaved
minimum.
doesn't make us saps.
Yeah. God damn it! And then they put him in a coffee can.
Oh, that's so sad. Well, especially since he doesn't even seem to have a family. He's just got John Goodman and the dude.
But yeah, it was one of those. He seems to be like a siblingless orphan.
Well, there is that
Um,
wacky theory about him.
What's that?
I think Stefan
Oh,
that he's
Oh,
in
that
John Goodman's
Donnie.
mind.
Yeah, there is a theory out there, and they actually ran this theory by the cast when they were at Lebowski Fest once, and they think it's hilarious. That Donnie doesn't actually exist throughout the whole film. Now, seriously, if you go through the film and you count the number of times other people actually interact with Donnie,
Oh, there's one.
so yeah. So let's see if you guys can remember them. So first of all, obviously Walter interacts with Donnie a great deal. Um, how many times does the dude interact with Donnie? I'll give you a
there's one
clue. You
time
can
in the
count it
car
on
park
less than one hand.
when he's got that
It's just
big
Oh,
old
well, one
mobile
hand on less.
phone,
yeah. He says
and
phone's ringing. He
Donnie,
goes,
thank you, Donnie. Yeah.
yeah.
So
That's
they're in the
the
car
only time.
park. Donnie says, "Phone's ringing, dude," and the dude goes, "Thank you, Donnie." It could, I suppose, just be an afterthought of Jeffrey. The dude walking off and just adding "Thank you, Donnie" as an afterthought. I don't know.
There is a
Yeah.
moment at the beginning of the film when he says, "What are you guys talking about?" and the dude says, "My rug."
Oh yeah. So he is
However,
real.
it's not something that would have been entirely unreasonable for him to say just to Walter based on what he'd just been saying. So yeah, I think there's only one concrete moment where he actually does interact with Donnie, and that is the "Thank you, Donnie."
There is.
Phones, yeah.
But consider
Speak.
this, right? When Donnie says "phone's ringing, dude," imagine if because the dude, hear me out here, right? Say the dude was quite annoyed with Walter, which he was for um kind of whatever he said in relation to his car being stolen.
Rolling out of a car with an
Yeah,
Uzi in a bag.
and he's just been saying like "fuck you, Walter," and he walks off and then says "thank you, Donnie." What if that was just sarcasm because he's mad
Oh
with
no.
Walter and he's taking the
If,
piss with how
if
Walter has an imaginary friend?
if you look at the film Fight Club, where we see the two of Tyler Durden and the guy Edward Norton plays fighting each other in the car park, and other people are watching them, we don't see what they see. We see what Edward Norton sees. So it might be that we're seeing what Walter sees, but it's actually Walter who goes, "Phone's ringing, dude."
What if it's
Well,
even
It
worse
could
and
be.
Walter's not real either?
Oh shit.
oh no.
No, I think
Yeah,
Walter has
but
to be
Walter
real. That's too
punches
much of a
several
stretch.
people and also points
Yeah,
his
he
gun
does.
at Smokey and that sort of thing. So.
Yeah, and he bites a man's ear off.
Yeah,
Nice
and I
try,
mean,
Jablonski.
so if you think about it, it could all be that Donnie is imaginary. The dude cares a lot about Walter. He's his friend. You know, he's his only friend to an extent, and he just wants to go along with this whole Donnie thing to make him feel better. Um, to the point where even the funeral director at the end, when they're arranging Donnie's funeral, um, the dude could have gone in there first and said, right, this guy, he has an imaginary friend. He believes he's dead, so that's finally over with. But you've got to go along with it for this.
Or just put some scrapings in the
so,
urn.
so
Yeah,
what are they? Yeah, I was going to say, what are they picking up from the crematorium?
I don't know. Maybe they just like I don't know. Maybe they got something from the pet cemetery or whatever. But the
Actually, asking the big questions, what would you all like to have done with your ashes? I mean, Stefan, would you like the exact same funeral as Donnie, were you saying?
Where you get
I
thrown
would
in your
like
best friend's face.
Yeah, that's a
my
good idea.
remains to be scattered at Disneyland. And
With all the other ashes.
I also don't want to be cremated.
Just
I
chucks off a
do.
Ferris wheel.
I'd much rather be cremated because then you take up a lot less space and nobody's going to dig you up at some point, and then, or even worse, like build some kind of shopping center and cut halfway through you.
Yeah,
Just go,
I don't
what's
really
this
mind.
doing here?
I don't mind what happens with my remains, to be honest.
I'd like to be wealthy with a younger wife that I don't actually love, and it's a right mess. But I'm going to leave all the money to her. But a condition is that I have to be stuffed in the living room at all times. No, in the bed at all times, so she can't remarry.
So what's that smell? Never you mind.
No, I'd be stuffed, but yeah, I just
what if
force
she
another
gets a
person
new
life
bed?
misery. Oh no, it's got to be whatever bed she's got, otherwise she loses all the money. So she'd bring someone home and like, I'm trying to move on. My dead husband's in the room, and I'd just be there like,
he was a layabout in life, he's a layabout now.
there he is.
See,
His little suit.
I'd be cremated, and I used to say, just for a bit of a giggle, that I'd like to be cremated and thrown in the face of an elephant just to see what he would think.
Oh, that'd be good.
But
the trouble is, you can only do that once because they remember.
What if the elephant went on a
Never forget,
rampage
yeah.
and trampled lots of people, and it was all my fault? I'd be dead. But realistically, there are companies out there, aren't there, where you get cremated and put into sort of a pot of compost with an acorn in it.
Oh, I don't care
You
for
can
that.
become a tree. Yes.
Why don't you care for that?
I'd like to get turned into a sword or something like that. That'd be quite
or
good.
a diamond.
Either that or a bullet.
Why don't you like the tree idea?
I guess I don't like positive things.
That's because you're an idiot.
Yeah, I don't know.
Fool and rotter.
How dare you?
Well, where were we then?
Oh.
So we've discussed most of the content of the film at this point.
Oh, I've got a plot point. I've got a plot point that's quite interesting. One thing that I've noticed, which makes no sense, is it's based on private detective films.
Yeah.
If you look closely, Walt's job is that he's a private investigator. And it's barely brought up. He's self-employed and he runs like a security company. And the reason why he knows exactly what's going on is because that's his job. And for some reason, he's barely roped into it at all. Like, no one really wants his input.
DeFino, because we didn't mention DeFino, the private investigator.
Slimy
He's following
man.
the dude about.
I'm a brother Seamus. I'm a brother
Seamus. It's one of those things where you kind of wonder who the guy in the Beetle is, or if he's even real for a while. But he does turn up later in the film, and the dude and him, he forces DeFino to get out of the car, and they have the worst sort of standoff in the street with combat stances ever.
Oh, with his like yoga moves.
Would
you like? Oh, sorry.
It's a bit of a crazy, kooky cult film that's got a weird sort of new status, but it has given rise to a whole church in its name, hasn't it?
There's thousands
Dudism,
there's thousands of priests of Dudism now.
I haven't looked anything up about it. All I know is they sort of like wearing dressing gowns and living a very calm life, I guess.
It's bizarre.
I really want one of those sweaters that he gets in the second half of the movie.
They're meant to be pricey, aren't they?
Pendleton Westerlies. Yeah, they are excellent, but they are quite expensive.
Shall we set up an OnlyFans?
Do you think within dudists, because I've seen a lot of them at Lebowski Fest and that sort of thing, who do dress up like the dude? Is it a bit like the different degrees of Elvis, where you dress up as different versions of the dude?
I think so. Yeah.
I think I'd want to dress as Walter, just wear a little vest and look angry.
If there are any dudists out there, again, feel free to drop a comment on the YouTube.
Yeah, please do.
Would you?
Dude abides.
Likes and facts.
Link to us some informative documentary videos about dudism. Various forms.
We want to know what's going on. I've got some bloody facts about the film if you want.
Oh yeah, give us some trivia.
The word man is used 147 times. And another fact is the word fuck gets used 290. Sorry, that's my phone. Gets used 292 times.
There's actually a video compilation on YouTube about the swear reel.
Oh god,
it's quite funny.
And the last one, last number fact is that throughout the film, the dude drinks 9 different White Russians. He's always mixing one.
So you could drink along to the film, I guess.
See, I only drank 3 while we were watching it.
You'd get quite unwell.
What, from the milk or from the vodka?
Oh no, combined. Probably. Depends on the type of milk.
But there's only, as far as I know, one major ad-libbed line in the film
Yeah, just the one.
where he calls the Big Lebowski a human paraquat. That was made up, but apart from that, every single word seems to have been strictly written down and followed.
Tightly scripted.
It's
like
well
the
written then, because it doesn't seem like it flows in a way where it's obviously been scripted. So
Well, I think it's my favorite Coen Brothers film.
Yeah.
Sort of loosely, not exactly closely, but it is followed by Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, which I would suggest as a film actually for Mustard Movie Nights.
I don't care for it.
I
I
don't
haven't
care
actually
for you,
seen
but I
it.
still keep you around.
I don't know. Actually, I haven't seen it, so we might give it a watch. So
I like it.
to wrap it up, like Julianne Moore should have, because the basket looked mucky.
Well,
What
she
was
didn't want
everyone's?
to. It was the dude that should have wrapped it up if he didn't
What
want
was
to.
She doesn't
everyone's-
even make
what,
him
sorry?
shower first.
Do you think that's a good deal? That she wants to conceive a kid with him, but has no desire to see him socially or have him raise the kid himself?
I think for most men that's quite a good deal.
I'd be a bit sad.
Yeah,
I want to see a
guess.
little rascal.
Yeah, I think I
I'll
probably would
meet
as well,
my
but for
I'll
most
meet
men.
my kid when he's old enough to buy me a pint.
Well, you turn up like the uncle out of Braveheart, like, we're going to the Middle East now. This is your life. Your
I'm
mother's
your
dead.
son.
Your
What?
mother's
Get
dead.
out of here. She's
What were you gonna
alive
say,
and well
Simon?
and living in Droitwich.
Simon, you said what was everyone's?
What were your favourite moments from the film? What did you like?
Hmm.
I know Matt liked the boob bit.
The boop bit.
It's
Yeah,
quite-
but there was
The
a bit
woman on
where,
the bouncy trampoline.
yeah, there's a lady on a trampoline, and I recall you going, "That's some boobs there."
Well, I was just remarking on the boobs. You know, I'm not going to slight a woman for having good
There's
quality
some boobs
boobs.
in this
well,
film.
exactly. There are quite a few moments I would like to say are my favourite, but I'm just trying to think if I can narrow it down to one.
I liked it when they
Defining
dragged the disabled
moment.
man out of his wheelchair.
Well, give us your top three.
Okay. I think the bit where Walter dives out the car and his Uzi rolls around across the road and sprays bullets everywhere. That's one of my favourite bits.
Then he hits his
Um,
knee on the road.
Yeah.
I love that he rolls out of that car with total confidence, like, this is going to be amazing.
He probably, last time he did that, he was probably a lot thinner.
One thing we haven't mentioned, which I'm going to mention last because that is my favourite moment in the film. We'll come back to that. So probably my second favourite moment. Again, there's quite a few bits I could choose. The fight at the end is very good. I love how Walter just becomes completely unhinged, and even as Donnie's dying of a heart attack, Walter starts like referencing Vietnam and saying,
Let's help
like,
Chopper in.
he's like, "Go on, dude, get the medics," and he mentions something about a chopper.
Yeah, there were no shots fired. Get the medic.
And
Chopper's
yeah.
inbound.
I love how he's
He's
actually
like, "I'd
turned
go
it into
myself, but I'm pumping blood." But yeah, my favourite moment is the sequence that we haven't talked about where Lebowski's been drugged, and
Yes.
and in his mind he goes into this sort of dreamlike state where he's imagining himself
I
sort of
just dropped
dancing
in
along
to see
along
what
through
condition
this.
my condition was in.
Yeah, with that song playing in the background. So it starts off with him dancing along through this cave. It has a little intro scene where it calls this sequence Gutter Balls. Then he
Log
gets given
jamming
his
was
bowling
the film
shoes.
itself, wasn't
He gets given his bowling shoes from a seemingly infinitely high stack of shelves with bowling
very
shoes
odd.
on from none other than Saddam Hussein.
it?
If you look closely, he's got a bowling shirt on that says Saddam and a beret.
Oh,
So-
because at the
Got a
start
berry
of
with
the
a pin
film,
on it, has he?
at the start of the film, there was George Bush on the TV on the news talking about Saddam
Will not
Hussein.
stand.
So there's that beginning parts of the sequence. Then he dances his way down the stairs, dressed as the repairman that the German bloke Karl Hungus was dressed as in the porn movie that they end up seeing in the
The
film.
nihilist. Yeah.
I've
Yeah,
got
the nihilist.
I've got a bloody fact about this if you want
And-
it.
Give me that in a sec. So then he dances his way down the stairs. Maud Lebowski is there dressed as some kind of bizarre Valkyrie woman.
Bowling ball,
And then he
bra,
shows her how
Viking.
to bowl, but in turn bowls himself down the alley, where he goes through the legs of all of the female dancers.
That's why you should never hold on to the ball when you.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
And that's the sequence. Simon, what were you going to say?
Oh, apparently they kind of researched dreams, and a wacky thing about dreams is that you can't invent stuff, because if you ever manage, when you remember a dream for a little bit, often rooms are combinations of rooms that you've actually been in, or objects or things that you've already seen.
But
So-
I'm something of an active dreamer myself, so more often than never, I will realize it's a dream, and I can sort of punch someone and fly away.
Oh wow, I don't have those. But there's little things like, he does the dance that his landlord was doing earlier.
Oh yeah,
So it's all like wacky little things that he's seen before. But I think some of the clothes, well, apart from Julianne Moore's Viking, I don't think she wears that.
I mean, that's how dreams work, isn't it?
what was that?
It's bizarre.
Ooh.
It references things that you already know, things that you've seen.
They're very odd. Does anyone know the story about the Merkins?
I don't
The
think so.
Merkins.
Yeah, apparently when they were filming it, he sort of goes underneath the legs of all like the dancers.
Oh,
The first time they filmed it, sort of play a trick on him, they all got massive pube wigs.
yeah.
Actually, that's hilarious.
And on that day, his children came to watch filming. They were like, "What's Dad doing?" He's sort of dressed as a maintenance man, getting pushed on a little skateboard underneath some giant pubic wigs.
Is this what Dad does at work? Well, not every day. Yeah.
Oh, he was an accountant.
Are they? Did we have 3 of your favorites?
I did give you 3, yeah. I mean, I can't remember what they were now, but
Shall I tell you? Well, you like the dream sequence.
there was the dream sequence, the fight, and and the bit where Walter rolls out of the car.
That was quite good.
Shall I tell you mine?
Yeah, go
on. Well, I was going to say the dream sequence. I don't know if I can have that or not, but
Yeah,
I'll
go
tell
on.
you. Well, if I'm going to do different ones, I have a sort of collective favorite. I really love the scenes where the 3 guys, the dude, Walter, and Donnie, are just hanging out in the bowling alley, seemingly doing nothing.
Yeah.
So there's a particular scene where the dude goes to the bar and sort of just orders a couple of ice cold bottles of Miller, and you sort of just see these really cold bottles covered with condensation and everything, with ice and everything around them, and he's got another White Russian. It's just one of those lovely moments of stillness where you're in the universe of the Big Lebowski. I just really enjoy that, because whenever I've been bowling, it's like, oh, we've got a couple of games. We'll turn up. Quick, take your turn. Where's everybody? Throw the ball, and then you finish it, and then you bugger off and go and get a burger somewhere.
It's a very quiet bowling alley.
And there's often just somebody else waiting to take their turn. But I guess the difference is, with this being league bowling, that you got nowhere to go. So they just hang out there all the time, and they just seemingly have money to spend on hours and hours of practice. So I do like that particular scene where he's sort of just picking up beers at the bar and going back.
I was upset. I was upset that they didn't use that big frame thing that you can use, because that's how you win the game.
Do you use that, Simon?
Oh, every time. That's how you win.
My dad's a much better bowler than I am.
I think we should go bowling in celebration of this after lockdown's over.
I think we should all dress up as characters.
We should all go there as the Lebowski characters.
Well, I was going to say, could we all wear the same shirt? Like the 2, there's Jesus Quintana and his silent friend, Liam O'Brien.
God.
I think we should bring Doug along and have Doug be Jesus.
Yeah, if no one's seen this film, that character's a paedophile.
We didn't even mention Jesus. Yeah, well, we don't want Doug to be in for that reason, but it's just the way he kind of does that dance and then
to the Gypsy Kings.
Yeah.
You're ready to be fucked, man.
Well, my second favorite moment. I do like. There's the policeman who is at the car impound, where the dude goes to pick up his car after it's been stolen, and the dude goes to him, "Do you usually find these guys? I mean, have you got any promising leads?" And the guy goes, "Leads? Yeah, sure. I'll just check with the boys down at the crime lab. They got 4 other detectives working on this case. They got us working as shifts."
Yeah,
Leads. I like that guy. And the dream sequence is awesome. Oh, my favorite bit number 3 is when he ends up talking to Sam Elliott, the man with the mustache.
Cowboy
and the
man.
guy shares his sort of Western wisdom with the dude.
Apparently, his lines were very easy to edit because you can't see his mouth when he talks. He's got a big old mustache.
Really?
Yeah, it's one of the reasons. Yeah.
He does do that thing that irks me in American films and TV where they buy a drink, they take a sip of it, and then they just leave it on the bar, go somewhere else.
To be fair, I did that a lot on New Year's Eve. Apparently, I wasted many a drink.
Yeah, but
yeah, you were just leaving bottles
not
all
in your
over
right
the place.
I know. I'm still upset about that. I wasted a lot of alcohol.
I wasn't there.
Yeah.
I was somewhere else. But yeah,
This
they're
was
my favorite 3.
Yeah, this was indeed our Big Lebowski discussion.
So, if you haven't seen the
Review.
film, we just ruined it. So, you should have watched it first. But I would still say, watch the film. It's a good film.
It's great. See, I've seen it quite a lot. I've seen it easily over a dozen times. And it's just one of those placid, as I say, great films to just relax and be in the universe of. It's got quite a sort of stoner status about it, but I like it for being just a well-written, interesting, fun, easy-going film. Apart from when he's getting beaten up and stuff.
Yeah, or getting drugged, or
swearing his head off, or
getting hit with a mug,
or dropping a cigarette in his crotch whilst driving a car, smoking a beer and smoking a joint, and smoking a beer, drinking a beer.
Smokers go smoke some beers.
Smoking a pancake.
Yeah, that is something like a foreign exchange student would say. Hey, you want to go smoke a beer? Yes.
Oh dear.
But yeah, thank you for listening. This was our Big Lebowski podcast,
and we'll end by saying, "Shut the fuck up, Daddy."
We'll end by saying,
"You're like a child that wanders into the theater."
You're killing your father, Larry.
I mean, I think we should end by saying, "The dude abides."
He does indeed.
Sometimes the bar eats you, and sometimes you eat the bar. No, I've got that wrong.
No, I don't know about you.
Well, you've ruined it now, so we'll have to end it.
Sometimes you eat the bar. And
no, I don't know about you, but I feel a lot better knowing he's out there. The dude.